Hello, my royal lovelies. Welcome back to the channel and of course, welcome to my home. Today, I want to make a video answering all of your burning questions. So, a few days ago, I put out a community post saying, please send me any questions, topics, themes, anything you want me to talk about. I've had 24 responses. I'm going to read them all. I haven't pre-looked at them. So we're just going to sort of take it from the top. So let's just get straight to it. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara and affectionately known as Granny's Chips, some of the Cullinan diamonds. Right, so Memphis Chick says, could you do an episode on all the royal properties? There are many of them. I think it would take more than one episode to do all of them. But you want to know their location for us non-UK residents. I suppose the geography of the UK is quite interesting in terms of where the main I think that video could work. I think I see this as a standalone video rather than me answering it in this video, because I could kind of do a map and I could put sort of where all the properties are in relation to each other. So it's a really good idea. So can I put that one on ice for a moment? But you're a bit confused as to what part of the UK all these places are. Thank you so much, and you're looking fabulous. Well, thank you. I'll give you a little shimmy of Granny's Chips. No, I think that's a really, really good idea. Thank you for the video suggestion. I will turn that, I think, into a different video. So, but always think Balmoral is in Scotland. That's the farthest north, and then I suppose the farthest south. In terms of an actual inhabited palace, possibly Windsor. Possibly. I will make a video on that. Right, Carissa says, I miss the jewellery. It's back, baby. And I love talking about them. Well, I spoke about them in my previous video on the Korean state visit, so do go check that out. Lots of jewellery talk. I missed them too, which is why they are back. What is your favourite piece and why? They're all so different. I suppose I can answer this by answering what my least favourite is, and then I might be able to work up to my favourite. I don't really like rubies. Rubies are not my thing. I don't like rubies, basically. I like anything sapphire. So Queen Victoria's Prince Albert brooch, that amazing sapphire with the diamonds around, is gorgeous. I think my favourite royal jewel that's iconic is the way that the late Diana, Princess of Wales, had a wedding brooch that I think was gifted from Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, the sapphire with all the diamonds around it, and she had it fashioned into a 7-strand pearl choker. That is absolutely iconic and probably one of my favourite royal jewels. My favourite tiara, I mean, I quite like the Brazilian aquamarine tiara. That's pretty impressive too. And of course, Granny's Chips are amazing, and all the different royal family orders. There's so many to choose from. I can't believe you asked a question just asking for one. My goodness. But anyway, so just to explain, a lot of my jewels, my royal replica jewels, were down in my office, which is based in a different property. So I've recently brought most of my jewellery collection back to the house, and a couple of my more flamboyant jackets, not the one I'm wearing today. So you will be seeing a lot more jewellery worn on the channel. Evelyn says, hello, I feel like this past year there has been a pullback on the number of royal appearances, or at least coverage of their appearances. I would say, since the pandemic, things have been done a little bit differently. There's a lot more to your comment, and I'll answer it in stages. Since the pandemic, things have been done differently. There are a lot more virtual meetings. And of course, there has always been work done behind the scenes in readiness for certain projects or speech writing or that kind of thing, which we don't see and which isn't always actually documented on the court circular. So don't forget, the court circular just kind of documents the appearances that, what's classed as an engagement. So if they physically go or physically do something or have a meeting or a video calls are now classed as an engagement and can be recorded as such. So I don't think they necessarily garner the same amount of attention as an in-person public engagement. I think things are slowly moving back to a lot more in-person. Plus, we have obviously what the Prince of Wales was saying during the Earthshot Prize about having less span but being more concentrated in the terms of work. So I think what we're seeing with the younger royals is less patronages but more in-depth work. And I think that is a little bit of a seed change. So that's possibly why we're seeing less appearances. Plus, we do not have the Duke of Edinburgh, we do not have Her Late Majesty anymore, who always used to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of royal engagements a year. Plus, with regret, I don't like saying this, but Princess Anne and Sophie and Edward don't garner that same amount of press focus and attention as what the younger royals do. So seeing as the younger royals are pulling back, when I say younger royals, we're talking literally William and Catherine, because that's all that's left. They are sort of, it's meaning that there are less engagements. Plus, I don't think there are as many royal reporters as there were. I can hear you say, but there's talk about the royals everywhere. Well, there's quite a lot of unofficial people, myself included, who put themselves out there talking about the royals. So on the face of it, it may seem like everyone's talking about the royals, but in reality, I think the actual press reporters on the ground are actually less than what there were. But what they do say and what they can report on because of social media has more impact, if that makes sense. I am hoping that kind of makes sense. Do you think the public's desire to see the royals has diminished? No, I've just answered that. I think the interest is there, but I think a lot of it is now consumed on social media. Also, it seems that Camilla's health has improved since last year, and at times she looked quite lovely as Queen Consort. Camilla has bunions. She has trouble sometimes with her feet, and don't forget her mother had osteoporosis. I don't think it's been ever confirmed that Camilla has osteoporosis, but you've got to remember that she is 75. So, she's not going to be running and around, here, there and everywhere like someone half of her age would. She's actually doing remarkably well for her age. I don't think I've noticed an improvement or a decline in Camilla's health over the last year. I think she's pretty much just stayed the same. But the one thing we can say is she's definitely stepping up to her new role. At 75, most people are slowing down or have slowed down or have retired or are thinking of retiring imminently, whereas Camilla and the King have kind of had to ramp up their operations and kind of step up. So I think she's done remarkably well. Your family live in North Carolina, and we have always loved watching the royals. However, you can have the two that are living in California back. Well, I'm not... Certain people don't want them back, is all I'm going to say. And they certainly don't have anywhere to live. I mean, of course, you're talking about Harry and Meghan. They don't have a UK home, and Harry is still claiming that it's unsafe for them to live in the UK without that formal royal protection. So in terms of whether anybody wants them back or not, I think that's irrelevant. I think Harry and Meghan are going to make the choice to choose to stay away for now. However, we have heard that they want a place at the King's Christmas table, which is unlikely to happen at this point in time. There we go. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay, Heike Bohm, I hope I said your name correctly. You say, do you know something about the awesome red dress that the Princess of Wales wore today at the state? Oh, the one with the slit with the leg that looked a bit like Angelina Jolie's leg bomb. She looked amazing. She did. She looked absolutely incredible. I think her style changed a bit since becoming Princess of Wales. Ever more elegant and mature, I would say. Right, about the dress. I do believe the coat was Catherine Walker, which leads me to believe that what was underneath looked like a shorter length skirt or a shorter length dress was also by Catherine Walker, although I am open to to being corrected on that. I think the hat was a different designer, but it did look stunning. And I still don't know how I feel about cape dresses. I sort of have a love-hate relationship with cape dresses. And remember that Edna Mode said, no capes, darling, no capes. Because you can get into all kinds of difficulty with capes. But she did look absolutely gorgeous, especially in Princess Diana's sapphire earrings. I've always said that Catherine's life would be defined in 3 sections. Well, 4 sections, obviously before marrying William. But since marrying William, Duchess of Cambridge, then Princess of Wales, and then the one that's still to come, Queen, or Queen Consort. And I've always said that with every phase there would be a kind of stepping up of royal fashion and royal jewels. And that is what we have seen. My prediction that I made years ago on this channel and spoken about on numerous occasions is actually coming true. These 3 phases. She's almost like a caterpillar. William and Catherine are both like caterpillars. There's the pupae stage, the caterpillar stage, the pupae stage, and then obviously when they become like a monarch butterfly, when they become when William becomes sovereign, and of course Catherine becomes queen consort. So we're seeing that with the jewellery, the Strathmore rose tiara being worn at the Korean state visit. It's all leading that way, where she is kind of slowly transforming with these 3 very distinct phases of her royal life. JC Connor says, could you clarify if the royal family really give each other joke inexpensive presents at Christmas? If so, are there any examples? Well, we don't really know. There's been reports saying that they do, and then I've read reports saying that they don't. But in reality, I think there have been some more jokey presents that have been given, but I don't think it is necessarily just joke and inexpensive gifts that are given. It makes more sense. I mean, certainly the royal family follow the more German tradition of giving presents on Christmas Eve rather than Christmas Day. I don't think they necessarily give each other massively lavish Christmas presents, so I can definitely see a few jokey ones coming in. I mean, we did actually see, I think, an evidence of was it something about I think in a background of a photo with the Queen, she had something like "It's good to be Queen" or something, like a cushion. There was some kind of novelty cushion, which we can only assume was given as a joke present. Then there was the leather toilet seat that was supposed to be given, and all kinds of different things. So yeah. But the one thing I also know is that Catherine one year did give the Queen some homemade, I think it was chutney. I think she made some chutney, and that was well received because it was on the Christmas dinner table the following day. So there we go. Matthew 3682 says, when will the schedule be announced for spring that might tell if the Wales family will travel down under to Australia? Simple answer is, I don't know. I mean, as with many things with King Charles's reign, some things have been sort of kept and retained, and other things have kind of moved and progressed with the times. So I don't know when the schedules are going to be released. All I know is, I think a lot of people are expecting some rather sort of large tours from larger members, larger geographical size countries like Canada, Australia, that kind of thing. And I do think Australia is on the cards for the Waleses, but I can't possibly say when. And the schedule, I mean, I imagine the schedule could be released in the new year, ready to prepare journalists and everyone, because these things are big undertakings, so lots of people will need to know in advance to get things ready. The Oslovian says, maybe talk a bit about Prince John. Very interesting how all that was handled. They would do it very differently today, I think. Okay, so Prince John was the youngest son of Queen Mary and George V. And he had epilepsy, which wasn't terribly too bad during early childhood, but when he got to about 11 or 12, it kind of got quite bad. And at the time, any kind of medical condition that was not really, terribly known how to treat, possibly could have been misconceived, could have been seen as a sign of weakness. And don't forget, we're coming off the back of the haemophilia within the royal family. So any other kind of medical kind of royal doubt that would kind of cast doubt on the health and security of the royal family, which would kind of cascade down into the health and security of the nation, kind of was seen to be kind of hidden away. So, contrary to popular belief, Prince John was not hidden away all of his life. He was only hidden away when it got really, really bad, the epilepsy. And I think from about 11 until he died at 13, he was moved to Wood Farm, where the Duke of Edinburgh spent retirement. And I've just spoken in a previous video about Annabel Elliot, Queen Camilla's sister, refurbing Wood Farm and lots of other royal rooms at Sandringham. So he was kind of moved there. Maybe they thought the air was better and that might help, but he eventually died of really bad seizures. Like I say, medical advances were not that great back then, and they didn't really understand or know. I think you are right. I think that any kind of medical condition of that nature would be treated completely different today. He certainly wouldn't have been, anyone today certainly wouldn't be moved off or kind of hidden. They would be addressed and treated, and perhaps the condition would be used as something to draw awareness or to raise funds or to try and help and further medical research into helping that cause. So I think perception, socially we have moved on from then. So yes. I think things would be handled and dealt with very, very differently today. Just look, for example, at how with dyslexia, Princess Beatrice has dyslexia. That was handled very differently, very openly, very honestly, and it's helped Princess Beatrice inform her choices of work with regards to charity work. Scylla 1902 says, I know the king is only formal heir, but will people ever know what every royal family member inherited indirectly from Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip? Thanks. Talk about the Korean state visit. Well, I have spoken about the Korean state visit. Okay, when it comes to inheritance with the royal family, the wills are not public. In the UK, normal citizens, their wills are a matter of public record. You can pay a certain amount of money, and as long as you know the person's name and address, possibly date of birth, you can obtain a copy of their will, their last will and testament. Some people are blocked out for security reasons, and the royal family, rather the monarch, is definitely one of those. So journalists have not been able to obtain the last will and testament of the Duke of Edinburgh, and they won't for the late Queen. So to put it bluntly, no, we will not know what was left officially in the will to other members of the family, although the bulk of everything has gone monarch to monarch transfer or sovereign to sovereign transfer, including the vast collection of royal jewels. However, there could have been some personal bequests left to certain members of the royal family. The only way we are going to know what they are is to be very vigilant. And luckily, there are lots of people on the internet who are very good at spotting different things, different outfits, different jewellery that may appear. And don't forget, some of these things that have been bequeathed may not even appear in public. They may keep them private. So we will never know the full extent. But the only way we're going to know is by seeing what comes out. So, for example, we might see, we think that Princess Anne was seen in public recently wearing a 2 or 3 strand pearl necklace that we think was that belonged to her mother. So we think maybe she had some of the Queen's pearls. But yeah, we aren't entirely going to know. So we have to be very, very vigilant and spot things. Also, it's very difficult because some of these things could be on long-term loan from King Charles and Queen Camilla. So yes, it's very, very difficult to know. Lou Johnson says, do you think there will be a reform in how titles are given? For example, only the children of those in the direct line of succession being entitled prince or princess. Well, of course, there has been change on the continent. Princes and princesses have actually, younger siblings of the direct heir have actually had their titles removed. I don't think we're going to see a move for that in the UK. The UK monarchy doesn't always follow at all European monarchy. So just because they're doing it, I don't think we are going to do it in this country. And we've seen that from abdication. Monarchs have abdicated on the continent in more recent years, and of course Her late Majesty did not abdicate. I know the UK has had a very famous abdication, but that was for very, very, very different reasons than, for example, becoming old and feeling like you should pass the job on. I don't think that's going to be the case. And I don't think that King Charles will abdicate. I think he will die a sovereign and then it will go to William. But with regards to titles, I don't really think we're going to see a change. I do think that every child of a reigning sovereign or the heir to the throne will have that prince or princess style and title, HRH. There could potentially be a move to bringing sort of working royals in, if you like. I mean, for example, I don't think it's going to happen. But if Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie were to lose their HRH and prince and princess titles, then if they were brought in to do some work, they could potentially have them back and then not use them again when they don't do the work. I mean, that is something that could potentially happen, but I just don't think it will. I don't think we're going to see any change when it comes to the way that styles and titles are given. The only change, I think, might be reform when it comes to, for example, making it equal if there are same-sex partners for the courtesy titles, for something to be done with that, for example. Sherry says, put on your soothsaying hat and tell us where you see Harry and Meghan in 3 years' time. Well, do. I think in 3 years' time, it's very difficult to say. It depends on so many different factors what will happen. I think with Harry and Meghan, it depends on money. I definitely think it depends entirely solely on money. If they are making enough money to sustain their lifestyle in Montecito, paying for their security, paying for their homes, paying for their travel, paying for their staff, all that kind of thing. If they're making enough, then I think they'll be staying over there. I don't think Meghan has any intention of coming back to live in the UK full time. I think Archie and Lilibet will grow up predominantly as American citizens. I hope there will be some kind of thawing in relationships, but I don't think Harry and Meghan will be back in the royal fold. I definitely don't think that. I think that ship has most definitely flown. I think the relationship between William and Harry is going to be fractious for a while, unless they can come together and agree to disagree and then move on from that base, which again, probably not going to happen. Then yeah, I see them in 3 years' time, still in America, still trying to scratch a living, still potentially threatening the royal family with exposés left, right and centre. I just hope that they're happy. I genuinely hope that they are happy with the choices that they have made, but I'm already seeing signs that I think Harry is kind of missing his former existence, if you like, and how he must think actually how much easier it was rather than having to sort of constantly scratch this living that he's not actually experienced enough to do. Being royal has a certain amount of skill, and talent, but only because you're kind of born into it. You're sort of, you watch how other members of the family do it. But as I've said before, in terms of being creative, Harry is not creative. He didn't create the Invictus Games. He based it on the Warrior Games. So, and all he's done since leaving is try to get retribution and score settling on his family and the press. So, yeah, it depends on money, I think, with them. Any updates on how Sarah Ferguson is doing? Well, apparently she's still living with Andrew at Royal Lodge. She has been on This Morning, a British morning TV show that's been going for well over 30 years, I think now. So she was kind of co-hosting that. And with regards to the breast cancer, as far as I'm aware, everything is going really, really good. And she has, I think it's taking longer than what she thought it would to recover. But she's most definitely on the mend with, and she certainly hasn't mentioned anything negative about that. So yes, I think all is well in Sarah Ferguson's world at the moment. M. Matthews says, can King Charles sell any property in trust? No. No. Who helped King Charles III so successfully build up the portfolio of the Duchy of Cornwall, and will he be able to do the same for the Duchy of Lancaster? Okay, so we know that William is now the Duke of Cornwall. That passed on to him. The Duchy of Lancaster passed from the Queen to the new king. So that's what derives their money. Basically, a lot of the success to do with the Duchy of Cornwall and the Duchy of Lancaster has come from the value in land and property rises and rents. So, for example, large tracts of land, held in London, offshore, wind and energy production. It's all helped increase the values. It has been well run. King Charles III and his advisors have run the Duchy of Cornwall incredibly well. Definitely run it as a business, and it's gone from making a few million a year all the way up to having a surplus of, I think it was 24 to 26 million in the last period. So, it's doing incredibly well, but that is based on quite a few different factors, including, like I said, the rise in property values, rise in rents, rise in revenue from farming, rise in offshore wind and other things. So yes, and I think it will continue to grow as a business enterprise under Prince William. Our Dragon says, what is the highest position Prince Harry, Archie and Lilibet would be in the line of succession when at the end of Charles and the beginning of William's reign? Okay, as we know, Prince Harry is currently 5th in line to the throne, Archie is 6th and Lilibet is 7th. Now, when William becomes king, they will all shift forward a place, if you like. So Harry will be 4th, Archie will be 5th, and Lilibet will be 6th. That is, of course, if Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis do not have any children at that time. But it's possible that Prince George, Charlotte, or Louis may have children before the time when King Charles passes away. If that's the case, then Harry and Archie and Lilibet will continually slip down the line of succession accordingly to how many children George, Charlotte and Louis have. So my prediction is that the highest that Harry will go now in the line of succession is 4th. But we will have to see when it comes to that. Do you think Harry will be a Councillor of State in William's reign? Again, depends on how many children George, Charlotte and Louis have and when they have them. But if for a brief period Harry potentially could be a Councillor of State, unless something is altered which says that it kind of does already pretty much say, about resident Councillors of State. I think there could be potentially a change coming, in the not too distant future to say about Councillors of State being fully resident in the UK, actually having, spending the majority of their time here in the UK. It's a little bit wishy-washy how it's kind of worded and interpreted at the moment. So at the moment, Harry has continued to be allowed to be a Councillor of State, but very highly unlikely he would ever be called upon because of the addition of a couple of new royal councillors of state. So yes, we will watch and wait, I think, for that one. Will Prince Harry be made a Knight of the Most Noble Order of the Garter? I don't think so. I think if he'd stayed in the UK, then yes, if he'd still have been a working royal. But the way things are at the moment, no, not unless there is a change in how he is perceived within the royal family. Those orders are given for service and duty, continued service and duty. Do I think Archie and Lilibet will get any honours in the future? No. I think HRH and Prince and Princess are as high as they are going to go, unless, of course, they return to the UK with Harry and Meghan, or just Harry, and continue sort of royal life, if you like, with regard to that. Monty says, why do a lot of the British think Harry is the innocent party in all of this and still want him back into the monarchy? Opinions with Harry and Meghan are always split, and they are always going to be contentious. I actually don't think, living in the UK on the ground, speaking to people, I don't think people necessarily do think he's the innocent party. And I don't necessarily think that people want him back. I think generally what people want to see is a happy royal family. And I think people want to see a reconciled royal family. I think a lot of the hate is coming from online, from social media. So it's very hard to kind of construe the actual mood of a nation when you've got a few very loud people on Twitter and X, I should say, and all the rest of it, on social media, shouting very loudly. But I think on the ground, the silent majority probably want reconciliation, don't necessarily think that Harry is the innocent party, but just want people to let bygones be bygones and just draw a line under it and move on. I think a lot of people want Harry and Meghan to just move on. But in terms of want them back in the royal family, I think people generally feel that Harry made a mistake in giving up what he gave up. I think generally people think that there probably were other routes to be explored. I don't think people generally believe 100% of what Harry has said. And I think people know that recollections do vary and that there is always two sides to a story. And we haven't really had, the official other side of the story. So I think people are cautious. But no, I think most people think that if Harry didn't want to be a working royal, then he shouldn't have to do it. It's his choice. But then also, it's his choice, and he has to endure the repercussions of those choices once he has made them. Sandy says, yes, I do have questions. Question A. Had Diana been alive today, would Diana be as popular as she was in 1997? Would the media have the same frenzy on her had she been wife of Prince Charles and the future consort? Okay, lots of what ifs. And as you know, what ifs are very hard to tell. And yes, I think had Diana survived the car crash, I think the media would have been as interested in her as previously. And also I think the public interest would have been as high. Although it depends entirely upon what choices she would have made. If she'd have continued on the path that she was, campaigning, coming across as being very selfless, then I think her popularity would have remained high. But, it's very, very difficult to sort of, predict something that didn't happen. Just for fun's sake, how do you think Diana would have dressed up for Coronation Day? I mean, which fun coronation dress and jewels would she be? Would she be bejeweled like Queen Alexandra or Queen Mary? Well, again, very difficult to say. I think if Diana had survived the car crash, I think she probably would have been invited as mother of the king to the coronation. I also think that at that time, I think Charles and Diana's relationship would have been very, very cordial. I think, a lot of water would have gone under the bridge, and I think all the acrimony would have gone by that point. And of course, they'd have had many, many years of co-parenting, and I think they'd have been fine. Diana may even have had a different title by that point. She could have been made a duchess in her own right. She could have been made Princess of the United Kingdom in her own right and actually been known as Princess Diana. But in terms of clothes, I think she would have worn something similar to what Catherine and Sophie Wessex, or the Duchess of Edinburgh, wore. And of course, there wouldn't have been that many jewels because King Charles said no tiaras. So she too would probably have had some kind of flower crown, as it has been described. Nancy says, please tell me King Charles is not considering inviting Harry and Meghan for Christmas. Well, that's what the rumours were that he was inviting them. The rumours were that Harry and Meghan wanted to come. They wanted to be invited. And then, of course, with Camilla's extended her grandchildren and the children and grandchildren being invited, there's no room for Harry and Meghan. So they've kind of been pushed out, if you like. But yes, there wasn't. I think there is a lot of spin coming out of California to respond to your question. I think they wanted to be invited and to Balmoral in the summer. And like I say, the invitation was simply not sent. And there we go. That is all of the questions. So I really enjoy these questions and answers because it kind of tells me what you do, what you are interested in, what you're not interested in, and sort of helps me to rack my royal brain and going back into all the knowledge that I have. So thank you if you left a question. I will be asking for more questions in the future. So if you've got a question, don't leave it in the comments of this video. I will put up a post in the community section at some point asking for your questions. But if you have enjoyed this video, please do leave a comment on anything that I've said, as I'm sure other people and myself will want to read it and will find it very interesting. Also, please feel free to share this video on social media platforms, including the dreaded X, and of course Facebook groups. So thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media, and of course do hit the bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. So from me, mwah, to you all, and goodbye.